Good evening. My name is Jeff Smith. I am the chairperson of the Webster Groves Plan Commission. We are a 9-member board of citizens appointed by the city council to review development proposals and make recommendations to the city council regarding future development of the city. In addition to the members of the Plan Commission participating in person and via teleconference, we have a few other representatives of the city I'd like to introduce. City Council Liaison Emily Hickson Shepard, City Attorney Peter Bruntrager, Planning Development Director Elliot Liebson, and Planner Joel Pugh. I would like to welcome you all to tonight's monthly meeting of the commission and take this opportunity to explain how we operate. As indicated in our agenda, we will begin with a regular session of the meeting when we will hear new applications for rezoning or subdivisions. We will hear a staff report and the applicant will explain the proposal. We will then ask for comments from the public. At that time, anyone with an interest in the proposal may indicate to city staff they have a question or would like to express their opinion. To make sure that we accurately record your name, we ask that you fill out a speaker's card if you are in person and turn it in to Mr. Pugh. For those on Zoom, please click on the raise hand feature. To make sure we accurately record your name, we ask that you identify your full name, address at the beginning of your comment, either in person or on Zoom. When you make your comments, we will ask that you be as concise as possible and not repeat a point made by the previous speaker. We also ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. A person who is a spokesperson for an organization may have 6 minutes to comment. After all citizens have spoken, the applicant will be asked to respond to any questions that have been raised during the hearing. When we have finished reviewing one proposal, we will move on to the next application. Comments concerning items not on the agenda should be made during the public comment section of the agenda near the beginning of the meeting. When we have completed the regular portion of the agenda, we will go into executive session. At that time, the commission will discuss their proposal and may decide to vote on the application or to postpone the decision. You are welcome to remain and listen to the discussion, but there will be no additional opportunity for public comment at that time. Our recommendations are sent to the city council. In most cases, the council will conduct a similar hearing and must enact an ordinance before the proposal is finally approved. If the Plan Commission takes a vote tonight, the City Council will likely take up this issue at its next meeting. If you want information regarding our vote or the progress of the application, you may contact staff at City Hall. With that, I will ask the secretary to read the first item on the agenda.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from June 2nd, 2025.
Okay, and I believe we have some comments.
Well, I was not present. They showed that I was.
Guess we can amend that.
I also was present via Zoom. I was not present in the chambers. There was a reference made in the minutes to the comparison was made to the once proposed Douglas Manor project. It's Douglas Hill.
Any other comments? Motion to approve with the requested clarifications?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Next item.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the public comment portion of the meeting.
Okay. Do we have anyone? We have no one here in person. Do we have anyone online that would like to make a comment on an item not on the agenda? Mr. Buck? So Dave, this is not a time to comment on the plan before us, but if there's anything else not on the agenda, feel free to comment. You're muted.
No, thanks, Jeff, but I'll pass right now. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is public hearings. There are none. The next item on the agenda is plats and site plans. There are none. We've hit the adjournment of the regular session. I make a motion to adjourn the regular session.
Okay.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we'll move to executive session.
Move.
Second.
Oh, that follows.
No, that's okay. All right.
Okay,
We're in.
so we have a vote on the comprehensive plan. We have Lakota with us.
Yes, so Josh, that's loud. Josh Bloom is here from the Lakota Group. He's going to have a little bit of discussion, basically to respond to the comments that the commission made on the draft plan and their responses and the conversations that have gone back and forth on that. This is not just for the public's a debate on the plan. I mean, there have been many opportunities, as you well know, to have that conversation, and there will be a public hearing for when it goes before the council, and there'll be another opportunity for public comment then. After that, then we'll turn it back to you and we'll have let the plan commission vote.
Okay, all right. Let's hear from Josh first in response to what we had discussed last week.
Would you like me to say a few words, Elliot, or Chairman, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Josh.
Thanks for having me here tonight. It has been an extraordinary pleasure to work with you all. We began this, believe it or not, in March of 2024, so about 16 months ago. The last time we met, my partner in this work, Hannah Bader, was part of the conversation, and she presented. And I'm delighted to tell you on her behalf that she had a baby boy on June 12th, and so she is not here this evening. Her first child, so that's exciting. I'm not going to make a formal presentation or present any slides. I'll just say a few words about the process. We began this, as I said, in March 2024, and the work consisted of 3 phases. And the first phase was what we call engage and assess, and it culminated, which was the research phase and public engagement phase. And that culminated in the State of the City report, which was submitted in August 2024. There was some turnover in the planning department at that time. I'll just note that as a historical note. And we presented the State of the City. I went back to look through my records. We presented the State of the City report to City Council. I don't have a record of presenting it to the Plan Commission, but it was circulated to the Plan Commission. And that State of the City report became essentially the first half of the comprehensive plan itself. So it's the first 75 pages of the comprehensive plan. We then moved into the second phase, which was the envision phase. And it was during that phase that we had our second community open house or community workshop for public input on some ideas that we were presenting. And that culminated in a document that was called Draft Goals and Strategies. And that was delivered in February 2025 to City Council and the Plan Commission. And then the third phase of the work was the what we call plan and implement. And that was the development of the comprehensive plan itself. So that was submitted in March. And then again, there were a couple of transitions, staff transitions during this period. But we received, as you know, because we discussed it at the June meeting, many comments from the Plan Commission at that time. We incorporated many of those comments and revisions into the plan. There were others that we did not incorporate into the plan. Some of them would require pretty extensive discussion or a very lengthy memo to respond to them. I think at this stage, you guys will decide what you want to do. We want you to be happy with the plan. that you adopt, obviously, and we want to do whatever we can to make that to make sure that is the case. So at this point, you know, I'm happy to respond to any questions about comments. But given the when we received the comments, it would be it wasn't possible to sort of have a back and forth discussion on all of them. We did have some back and forth discussion at your last meeting, and we incorporated, as I said, as many as we could into the document itself. And that is that's the revised plan that you all have was circulated with your planning packet. And I think I'll leave it. I think I'll leave it there. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
It was my understanding, hey Josh, it's Emily Shepherd, that we would have a full adjudication of all the plan commission.
You know, I'm sorry, the sound isn't coming through very clearly. Is it? Can you try again, or is your microphone on?
Yeah, can you hear me better this way? If I pull it closer to me?
Yeah, it's a little better. Thanks.
A little better. Is it quiet or is it like interference?
Just quiet. Now it's working perfectly. Go ahead.
I'll lean in.
Okay.
It was my understanding in talking with the mayor and city manager and Elliot Leepson a week or two ago that we would have a full adjudication of all the plan comments in time for them to review today. Do we have a document? I understand if we can't talk through all of the details, but do we have a document that has, this is what was submitted and this is what happened to it?
We did not adjudicate every single comment. As I said, that would probably be a document in itself of 30 to 50 pages. We typically respond to these kinds of comments as part of a discussion, unless they are kind of typos and edits and things of that kind. The
I'm
memo
not
that
sure if the plan commission members will need that in order to comfortably vote on it today. That was something that we discussed internally that we would have today. But I know that commission or city council members are going to want to see how the plan commission comments were adjudicated as we're preparing our own comments, you know, so we don't ask for something that's already been kind of asked and answered. I think this is a really key point. I don't know if that's a Lakota group task or a planning and development task, but that is something that is an important piece to this.
okay.
I guess I just have one question. In the process that you described, when would the appropriate time for substantive comments from the Plan Commission have occurred? I just think that I missed that in the phasing. So
Yeah.
I understood that to be the last feedback session, which now it seems like the message is that that's late to the process. So maybe I missed it. I just want to make sure I understand that I missed it and it wasn't a step missed.
Yeah, that is a fair question. So, and as I said, there was an unusual amount of staff turnover during this time. So I don't know what cues might have been missed internally. When we submitted the State of the City report in August 2024, that would have been the time for comments on what is really the first 75 pages of the plan. When we submitted the goals and strategies in February of 2025, that would have been the appropriate time for substantive comments on the goals and strategies. The first draft of the full plan was submitted in March, so that would have been sort of the most urgent time to get substantive comments on the plan itself. When we submit what's essentially a final draft, which was in, I think there were a couple of drafts that occurred during the last few months, but typically at the stage of the when we were looking at the plan at the June Plan Commission meeting, which I think was June 2nd, we are usually looking at sort of typos and corrections of that kind of nature. So it would have been a lot to incorporate all of those comments at this stage. And that is the timeline of how the deliverables were distributed.
All right, Josh, this is Jeff. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think that's probably fair. Nevertheless, I think we have the commission here is presented with what we have in the time frame that we have, due to whatever circumstances. But I guess at this point we're left with a plan that, while comprehensive, and I guess I'm a little. Let me digress briefly. There's a lot of community input. I don't think this commission is necessarily right to override the input from the greater community, but at the same time, I think there might be some direction to some of those goals that we could provide input on. That's just my personal opinion. Be that as it may, I guess we have a plan. We kind of have a time frame beginning last June or last month, asking to kind of approve it as it is, essentially, and we're tasked with that this evening, or not approve it. In which case, we'd have to figure out a path to circle back on. Is that a fair synopsis of where we're at?
I guess we each, we'll each have our opportunity when we vote to say how, in our voting, if we go to a vote, right? But yes, I agree with you totally on that. Yes, not having the staff, it was definitely hard I'm sure, for you, Josh. And I'm sorry about that, but here we are. And there's still some things like you said, there are things that we probably should have been brought up in February and March, because I still see errors in some of the mapping things that seem ticky-tack right now, but this is the map that we're supposed to be approving. And I just feel sorry for the lack of communication, I guess.
I'll just reiterate that everyone on the Lakota team really want you to be happy with this plan. It's something you're going to live with, something you're going to use. And we don't want you to feel in any way like this was, here we are and you have to accept it. I noted the dates because there really was, it really has been a very long process. There was a tremendous amount of public engagement throughout it. But I think we can all agree that there were probably some missed opportunities for whatever reason. I would like to claim that we did our best in trying to make sure that things were delivered on time and that they were appropriately circulated. But there may have been some missed opportunities along the way. That seems clear. But again, we want you to be happy with the plan. So it's really up to you at this point how you would like to proceed.
I'd like to ask for some clarification from commission members. I'm hearing things like errors in the commission plan or the comprehensive plan and stuff like that. Are we seeing actual errors in the data in the plans, or are we disagreeing with items that are in the plans?
There's a few, I think, discussions that could be had, and they were addressed in some of the comments that I received back from. I still disagree with them. No, there, like I said, there are mapping errors on here, that I'm coming from the position of we as a commission and staff are going to be making recommendations on land use issues based on this comprehensive plan. And if I don't agree with some of the goals or some of the recommendations in here to start out with, I don't want to go against my own comprehensive plan.
Yeah, so yes, there are items that we would maybe want to further discuss. I was more confirming that we did not have like Glendale labeled as Elm or something like that in terms of errors.
I guess that's the point to concentrate on. I saw some errors. I still see some things I would call errors that I think are technically incorrect. That I caught things that say city should do this. Well, I'm pretty certain that's MSD does these things. Our this road, I think county, we need to account for county, state jurisdictions on these roads, and we're not doing that. And I think those are errors. I don't know that they're fatal. And I guess where I'm, are something we can't live with. And where I'm a little, from my personal background, a little concerned too, is to be, again, I don't think they're fatal. The ones I caught, I'm not saying it's the ones you caught. But to be fair to Lakota in the city, there's some contract here, and I would assume we can't keep stretching this thing out forever without contract implications to Lakota. And so as city reps, as a city council, to sit here and ask for these things that are educated over and over, I think that might put the city in a position, but I don't know the contract details, so I might be just talking out the top of my head for that.
No,
I think that's the thing.
To
This discussion is pertinent to, the council be interested in, because, there could be additional thoughts on that. I guess I would like to know, I mean, we both know this, it doesn't go away, we don't never have a city, never have a comments like that. So what would a reasonable next step be, where we vote no?
I do not know the answer to that. Elliot, do you know what the,
Can we develop a recommendation?
I'm
if
sorry?
Are we able to provide a recommendation if we're not going to say yes? I mean, it seems reasonable that the plan commission could make a recommended next step, but is that within our scope?
I mean, you make a recommendation to council and vote yay or nay. Pull up the powers of the plan commission. I think it could be put in the minutes with the commission's recommendations for their vote are A, B, C. I mean, it wouldn't be in the vote itself necessarily. I think that's just a straight up or down. But the plan commission can say, well, in the minutes, the commission felt that these things were needed or not included, and that would be certainly appropriate.
This is a Peter question. Does council have to have a supermajority to override a planning commission denial?
So
Or
if you send if you send because whatever you vote is going to go to council. If you send a rejection up to council, because there's no, because it's not as if there's an applicant that's outside of the city here. I don't know that there's going to be written anywhere. I believe it's just going to be a simple majority that council would need to override that.
Okay.
But there's a third option, right? You can vote to approve, you can vote to reject, or you can ask them to come back with answers to your questions before you take action.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the schedule that we have is just a schedule. And if plan needs another meeting to talk through it and vote, then that's what we would need to do. I know that right now, in case this helps, that council's comments back are due August 11th. And I'm happy to add any comments I get from anybody to my list. Now, you have to vote on the document you have in front of you. I understand that. But if you want to add anything, you can. And then right now, it's planned to be discussed at council on August 19th and voted on 9/2. But if you need to, if you need to have something come back at your August meeting before that happens, or we move that back, I mean, that's not outside the realm of possibility.
I guess my sense here, and Josh, I think I'll ask for your input here in a second, but I mean, I think our sense is we're not at a point where we need to see if this was changed or this was changed or this was changed and cross all those off. I think it's maybe a step back, one step or a step and a half. I don't know, and maybe meet with Lakota and spend some time really, maybe what we should have done in February. I don't know. That's kind of my sense.
I submitted a lot of comments, so I'll speak for myself on this one. So I did not understand the stage in which this process was out. I do think we missed some steps. However, since our last meeting, re-reviewing my comments and the document, I feel the bulk of my feedback really lies in a concern at the lowest level of the plan, being the implementation actions. And that is because I know that we didn't have that really detailed back and forth in the development. And I have concerns about some of the implication on the partner and stakeholder groups outlined in those actions. So we as a plan commission every year come up with what we want to achieve, right? There are things in here that affect the Arts Commission and the Historic Preservation Board. And if they have not had a very detailed time to look through that, I think the ideas are great. I don't think we should change the ideas, but I feel it may be too restrictive for them to be prioritized with timeframes. And not to mention, there are real dollars attached to some of these objectives. And given just the scope of what the Plan Commission is, it's the only commission I'm on, you're very much tied to the bumpers, which the comprehensive plan puts on you. And I think as a city, we may want more flexibility than the implementation actions themselves provide. Not that any of them are bad. It's just that once they're in that plan, the charge is to go pursue them. And I find that limiting.
Okay. My concerns are that, yes, since there was a lack of planning staff input, it would have, my concerns are historical knowledge. We've sat through petitions, been here till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night on certain development issues that you had a lot of public input, but you didn't get our input from us having to evaluate some of these petitions and the recommendations that we have made previously, so that moving forward, you don't have an idea of some of the feedback we've gotten with certain development proposals. And that's what this document is for us to be using it for, is for, recommendations going forward. And I think some of historical knowledge may not have been imparted to in your discussions and in your discernment in writing this plan.
Josh, I'm going to go ahead and let you, I guess, respond, and I guess ask you a question. Were we not to approve, and then city council ultimately not approve at this point, either if time and budget were no issue, what next steps would you recommend?
Actually, your question is the exact thing I was thinking of. I think there's a few options. There may be more options than the ones that immediately come to mind. If you choose not to adopt the plan this evening, I think there's a couple of steps that probably have to be taken in terms of the Plan Commission's comments to us, which is that you guys will need to have some consensus among yourselves of which some of the comments are quite substantive. All of them are very thoughtful, but some of them are quite substantive. And I think you guys will have to have some conversation and consensus among yourselves of which ones you would want incorporated into the plan. You know, in terms of how the next, again, if you choose to not to adopt the plan and to proceed with substantive revisions, those could happen in a couple of different ways. Staff could potentially make those revisions and we could incorporate them into the graphically designed document. We could make those revisions and we would, but as was noted, we have essentially used the entire budget at this point to develop the plan. So we would need to discuss what would be involved in terms of revising and going through the next adoption process. Just to, you know, sort of be fair to us also. But, you know, as I said, we want you to, we don't want you to have a plan that you're not happy with. So, so I think the short of it is, I think the options that I could envision are that that city staff could facilitate the Plan Commission's identification of or consensus around the important substantive changes. City staff could write those changes to the plan, and we could revise the design document, or we could do those things. I believe it would involve at least several meetings to make sure that we are getting things right.
Yeah, I guess I kind of envision at least part of the process is discussion of intent of the comments and input back from you and say, well, you know, that wasn't the intent, or, you know, we can tweak things rather than just taking a paragraph and chunking it in there in the best possible place. So.
I think that another thing that hopefully we'll do differently at the council stage, which I wish we'd done at the plan stage, is the ability for everybody in the group to see everybody's comments. So you could kind of weight them and say, yes, this is an issue that multiple people on the commission would like to see addressed versus this is like a one-off that might not rise to the top. And I don't think we really had a time in the timeline for that kind of like coordinated look at everyone's submitted comments.
Like a working session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We missed that. But being where we are now, you know, I don't know how many comments I had. I have a lot, right? So I'm saying that because I think going through all of my comments would be not a good use of our time and dollars. That's why I'm foot stomping. My concern is the implementation actions. And so Josh, if you could speak to why that's a comprehensive plan inclusion versus like a strategic plan, that would probably help me wrap my head around it, because I'm having a really hard time imagining approving a plan that imposes actions on other parts of the city's operations that I think, you know, are typically things they would decide to prioritize. So can you help me understand that piece?
I can try. I think that there are there's different ways of approaching a comprehensive plan, and the one you the sort of framework you describe is a totally reasonable one. The comprehensive plans that I'm familiar with and the ones that we have developed typically do have components or chapters that are dedicated to areas that are outside the control of the Plan Commission itself. Because any comprehensive plan is really, it's going to be implemented by many, many different commissions, departments of the city, private nonprofits, and even developers. And so the plans I'm familiar with, the plans that we develop, do typically have this kind of component. And I'll give you one example from this plan, which is the City of the Arts and the Arts Commission. It was one of the first things that was brought up in our conversations with the steering committee, with city staff, and who emphasized that it was important that it be a part of this plan. And there are many players who are important to making Webster Groves a city of the arts. And so the plan addresses the arts and the different organizations, entities, city departments that are involved in that. And we met with many people from arts related organizations, and they provided input into this plan. We didn't clear every goal and strategy with them because they are not mandates, but they are ideas and strategies for making a city of the arts a reality.
Thank you for responding. It makes sense to me what you're saying about collecting feedback from stakeholders that are outside the process but would have to comply with the process. The particular groups I'm concerned with are part of the city appointed commissions. So, not knowing their feedback from going through the applicable sections is, I think, still an open concern for me. And then you mentioned a steering committee. Do you know who was a part of the steering committee? But I'm just curious, was that part of the city council?
Are you talking about the ambassadors?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we often call them
Yeah.
a steering committee, but they were the ambassadors for the plan. It was put together originally.
Second page.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh.
It was not members of city council, but like a few it was 6 people in the community. Let me see it. Mine's like right behind my front page. Oh. It was Keita Quinn, Sarah Richardson. Do you have it there, Grace? Yeah, those are two names.
Were those appointed by the council? How were they selected? Just curious.
Josh, I don't remember the selection process. They weren't official appointments by the council, I don't believe.
Yeah.
I know it's a year ago. I'm just curious more than anything. I'm not trying to like get you in a corner or anything. I was just curious. I promise.
Yeah. And I will answer as best as I can. I think that it was I think that we didn't set it up. We suggested that what we typically call a steering committee, and we decided to call ambassadors in this case. We recommend that such a group consist of people who come from different sort of different aspects of the community, public and private, and so on. And I believe that they were recommended by the planner at the time, along with, well, I don't want to speak further than that because that's my best recollection.
Okay, thank you. I was just trying to piece together some relationships that I know we can't go back and change it, but obviously that would have been really good for us on the commission to engage with the ambassadors so that we kind of, just had a more robust understanding of some of the framework. And so I appreciate you catching me up. Thank you. I promise I'm done now, at least hopefully for a little while.
I have a quick question. for like the short term, like what Grace was talking about, is there any repercussion if like we don't do these things? Like honestly, like, yeah, we don't do like the, wait, well, like any one or any of the goals, like isn't this just kind of like a guiding doc? Like, is there any?
We won't do every action.
Exactly. So is like, I don't know. I'm just like, there are ideas in here and it says like short term, like it should happen in 1 to 3 years, but I mean, good chance it might not. And is there anything that's gonna happen?
I mean, I think that the plan is that it would get reviewed periodically by, I would assume, this body, or city council or both.
I don't know, how
staff.
often does it
Somebody
get-
is reviewing it. And
Yeah.
so we could say like, oh, this should have been done in 3 years and we didn't for whatever reason. I mean, things are going to change over time. It's like a
Right.
10, 20, 30-year plan. So I think that one of the issues is like, not necessarily do you have to check every box, but are there parameters in here that like the plan commission's going to have to make future decisions based on, and do you agree with those parameters? You know, like, are you comfortable with those? Whatever those are.
And that's what I want to know.
The plan commission can only do as much as is put in front of them, and you don't have a whole lot of say on what gets put in front of you, right? So ultimately, your ability to achieve those goals is very limited to what the plan commission is making decisions about. But the idea is that there's lots of commissions that make lots of disjointed decisions like that, and so the comprehensive plan provides, kind of an anchoring point that tells all of these commissions making these disjointed decisions how they should all play well together.
I also just have a question for clarification. The maps that are provided in this document, I believe we touched on this in an earlier meeting, but the maps that are provided in this document are a guidelines, not a zoning map, correct? So these would be the guidelines to then the production of a zoning map. So there are no maps or drawings in here that we are held to as a commission, correct?
That's correct.
That's not necessarily true, because that's what staff uses to make their recommendation to us and what we discern based on the land use map the future land use maps that we adopt with this plan. I mean, we can, like I said, they're suggested land uses on the map.
Right, but they're just.
So if you have a decision in front of you, it needs to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So if for instance, a rezoning came in front of you that rezones a parcel so that it is what's shown in the comprehensive plan maps, what would be consistent with the comprehensive plan would be to rezone it to that, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Peter, I was wondering if you could speak to the ordinance that will need to be drafted and like how that's a next step after the plan is passed, assuming it's passed, and what that kind of looks like for plan commission, that process.
You mean the recommendation from the plan commission to the council?
Like past that, so there'll be a recommendation from plan commission to council as far as whether to adopt the comprehensive plan or not. But my understanding is that after that, there will also need to be an ordinance written. Right?
Yes, it frankly, it should be a somewhat simple ordinance that will be adopting, it'll be repealing the previous comprehensive plan and adopting in lieu thereof the 2025, or if this ends up being a 2026 comprehensive plan, and then it would attach the comprehensive plan as an exhibit.
Are you talking about the zoning ordinance? Yeah,
Mhm.
the zoning ordinance is going to have to be revised to take into account some of the recommendations in this comprehensive plan. Like there are zoning classifications in here that we don't currently have. So and uses and heights, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So our zoning ordinance is going to have to be revised.
And so if those are being, sorry, who was speaking? If those are going to be revised as well, they can be done in a couple of different ways. I mean, it could all be done in one ordinance, so that you've got one repealing the previous comp plan and enacting in lieu thereof, and then it can go through each of the individual sections that would need to be repealed. Realistically, that doesn't need to happen, and they can happen over time. I think that's a question for staff and how they plan to, I guess, work through each of those items.
Adoption of the plan is not a rezoning, right? I mean, everything would have to go through process
Correct.
separately.
Correct.
Would be assessed and commented on.
Well, it's not a rezoning, but it's telling you that's what we're gonna do.
Well, it's
So rezonings are more complicated than that, though, because if it's private property, for instance, that the comp plan suggests should be zoned some other way, the city can still rezone, but there's complications involved, because anytime you're doing a rezoning of private property, you're talking about a taking, right? And so it would have to be a public hearing. We'd have to go through that process. More realistically, and this is why I say it's up to staff on how they'd like to handle this. More realistically, those things change kind of organically as they need to, right? So if it's a specific use, like a residential use, that's not going to change along with the passage. If for instance it's residential, but the idea is it should be commercial because the commercial districts are expanding or whatever, the residential use is still going to continue until that property either changes hands or actually changes use, and so that may be the proper time to do a rezoning consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Are you gonna say something, Alan?
Oh,
You look like you were gonna say something. No.
No,
Okay.
I was, but I backed off.
So it sounds to me like this commission needs to bring forward our own comments and become a comprehensive feedback as a commission. We need to see each other's comments.
I think we've seen each other's comments
Yeah.
now. They
Available.
haven't been adjudicated, mostly because of the maturity of the plan and the process at this point. Honestly, I don't know what that would really do at this point. I think and this is my opinion, we're probably really are at a point where we just have to make a decision of to Peter's point, this is essentially a clearinghouse for the city council. And it's our job to decide if it's ready for the council to review or not. And we are in that position, not in a shaping position at this point.
I would agree with that. I haven't said very much, but my 2 cents on this is, I went back and looked when I first saw like drafts, and I appreciate the texture of the timeline. I also agree that they're done with their fee. They've done what they've been contracted to do. The other comment I make, though, is you said your city council comments are due August 11th, and then you're going to see them on the 17th to vote. No,
On the 19th to discuss.
Okay.
And
So,
then the vote would be
right.
September meeting.
There's still, I would say, time for comment, ideas, corrections. I think certainly if there are things that are material to the map making, to the comprehensive plan, there seems to be some time to get that done. I agree that it's going to be hard to get everybody on the same page, and I'm prepared to vote for this tonight.
Josh, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
So in your, what was your expectation for, I know you mentioned staff overturned all that. What was your expectation for the role or the extent to which the plan commission was going to be involved in edits, revisions, comments, et cetera?
Yeah, so usually when we deliver a draft, if there's a plan commission and a steering committee, AKA ambassador committee, they would both feed comments back to the city planner. The planner would consolidate those comments and hopefully resolve conflicts, if there were conflicts among the comments, and send those comments to us, and then we would incorporate those comments in the plan. And that's how it would typically work.
It wasn't your expectation then that we would have an in-depth meeting where we would, after I guess most revisions have been done, for the Plan Commission to submit sort of final comments?
That we do sometimes do that. It wasn't part of the sort of the original kind of calendar of events or tasks on the timeline. But if at an earlier point there were, very extensive comments and revisions, then it would make sense at that point to regather. The comments we typically receive are of a, sort of, I'm not gonna, not substantive, but not sort of reshaping the scope of the plan itself.
And just so I'm clear and make sure it's on the record, but that's because there was public engagement. You had lots of public comments, and your goal is to design this comp plan based on public input, right?
Yeah, and it's always a challenge because for any number of reasons, like we want to do as much engagement as we can. We did, there was a ton of engagement in Webster Groves. We had among the best survey response rates, participation in workshops, participation in focus groups, among the best of any of the places we work. Now, the public also has a very broad breadth of opinions. And so we also have to kind of cull through that of what is there some consensus around, what things are achievable within the plan, and come up with a plan that reflects as much of the public and as much public input as possible, as well as input from the ambassadors, staff, Plan Commission, council.
Well, so with that, just to the commission, then I do think your involvement. I want to make sure you guys are given the opportunity to make the proper number of comments. But we ought to be conscious of the fact that the public has had a significant amount of input, and so we don't want to be overriding public input to an extreme extent.
Yeah, I think that is overcome by events. We did not receive the state of the city report, so we missed that opportunity, and it's just something we have to live with. We're too far into the process. We can't be a part of the shaping comments. We were not included unless we privately involved ourselves. So that is what it is. It's, we should not belabor it, right? We need to move forward. But I also think it's important to acknowledge that coordination did not occur. And it is what it is.
So
you can't fix it.
And my only response to that is you obviously, you're right. I think you said earlier that you had privately involved yourself in the process. And so you as commissioners kind of have two roles here. One is as a citizen, and then one is more specialized here as part of the Plan Commission. And while the comprehensive plan is very important to the Plan Commission, it does, at least part of it, it plays a direct role on, or at least, while you are sort of guiding development in the city, the comp plan is what guides you. And so that there is kind of this expertise that we've given to you in order to make those decisions. And so if that discussion, if it's going to happen, I think it needs to happen tonight. If there are some concerns about the implementation provisions or things that you might like to change as far as zoning goes, things that are going directly into the city planning process, I think now is the time to do it.
I just want to say, push back on one thing, Peter, which is the idea that all the comments needed to be adopted. I don't think that was ever anybody's intention, that every comment that was made by Plan Commission members would be incorporated in the comprehensive plan draft. The issue that I'm having and that others, I believe also have is that there was no feedback back on which ones were and were not included. And I agree, like, I don't want to belabor it. Like, I think we're kind of past this point, but I just wanted to call out that there was not the expectation of any plan commission member that I talked to that all comments were going to be incorporated.
No,
I agree with you.
Yeah, some of the comments were, just were merited feedback or a comment back. Yeah, okay, I understand now. I guess personally, and Tony, your thoughts on zoning notwithstanding, I view this perhaps right or wrong, a little more of as a guide than maybe some of the others here and a living document. So I'm personally, from my own perspective, I'm more willing or open to taking it as is and moving forward. That said, from what I've heard from some folks here, I think there are some very valid concerns that there may be an opportunity to improve this, and at what cost then? Is it, it's a delay of several months and some amount of dollars. If that's, worth the time, then it's worth the time.
No, I overall, I mean, my comments were my comments and they were discussed, the consultants discussed and they came back with it. I just wish I would have had an opportunity to explain, some of my thoughts in more depth. But I asked Elliot a question last week when I talked to him in terms of, is this a plan that you can use from a staff perspective? Is this workable for you?
And the answer is yes. And thank you for bringing up the question, because I have participated in comp plans and used comp plans. And first of all, I would say that the implementation strategies are something I've seen in every single comp plan I've ever worked with, to a greater or lesser extent. And it is a guide, and yes, it puts some guardrails, but they're not set in concrete guardrails. They're suggestions, and I'll give the example of what just came up with the front-facing garages that we presented to the council this last week, and used elements of the draft comp plan that separately did not specifically address the issue of front-facing garages, but taken as a whole, address the themes of the community that the front-facing garage code, in my opinion, was attempting to address. And I made recommendations to the council based on those themes. And again, in none of the goals and strategies that I pulled out as examples for the council were there any of them specifically or directly mentioning, well, you shouldn't have front-facing garages, or you should do this or that. But they address the themes of pedestrian and walkability, character, the things that code was attempting to address in addressing general themes in a concrete way. And that's how I see the comp plan being used in my office. And I'm very comfortable with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem, forwarding my comments onto city council for them, because again, they will have another public hearing. They will have to discuss amongst themselves of whether or not these comments are pertinent or not. I've made my comments known, they've been answered, but I still want people to look at them, and I don't have a problem sending those questions on to city council.
Well, Any new information or opinions to add?
Who will be reviewing the document and updating it so that it is expanding and contracting according to how the city grows and changes? Who will be making updates to the comprehensive plan periodically, and how often? Maybe that's in here. I missed
It's
it.
the same kind of process. So modifying the comp plan, updating the comp plan comes through plan council, goes to council, goes through plan commission to the council.
But who's physically doing that? Is it the planning department in the city? I'm
Staff.
assuming we're
Yeah,
Yes.
we
Yes,
would
okay.
do that. And
right.
I mean, there's discussion of time, some suggestions as to specific times, but that's, I mean, I don't want to, again, not wanting to be hemmed in. I wouldn't say, every 5 years on the dot, we would absolutely, but it's as things come up and they may come up from our side, or they may come up from the public, or they may come up from you, the commission, saying, hey, we're hitting these issues that address these goals and strategies, but in a different way than the plan. Can we take a look at it? And then we go research it and come back and say, you know what, we think you're right. Here's some ideas, or I think they're not, and here's why.
So is it practical to say that, is this a fair representation? Lakota Group has developed these down to the action level plan for the staff to go and carry out, assuming this is adopted as written. Staff will then come back whenever. I think it would be good to have some kind of expectation on when, 3 years, 5 years, and say, this is our new updated plan.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it's really back within the city staff to present their plan for how they're going to operate through the plan commission and to the council as a revision or an uprev to the comp plan. Is that a reasonable way to think about these kind of more tactical actions?
Yeah, I mean, just being careful that we would be making proposals, but they're not. It's okay based on what issues of the day are being brought up in relation to the plan. It's not. I don't want it to think like it comes exclusively from the staff. I mean, we would present the issues that
Understand, right?
Right.
You're the arbiters of however that data flows in. Okay, thanks.
Think about it like this too, is that the comprehensive plan is similar to the city code. So there's currently a comprehensive plan, there's currently a city code. We update the code all the time. It's not now the amended code, it's just the amended provision. So we can amend provisions of the comp plan and leave the rest of it intact, and it will be in effect and continue to be in effect. But if at some point, a year down the road, we decide something like, the parking regulations for the old Webster business districts need to be revised in the comp plan, or generally across the city, then we can do that specifically while leaving the rest of it as is.
So is it fair to say that the overall vision isn't going to change? It could be just that the strategies are rearranged or changed or taken out or things like that.
Is that for me?
That's,
I would agree with that. The only way to change the overall strategy would be, be done now or very slowly after it's been implemented.
I'm sorry, I'm very technical. When you say overall strategy, do you mean pillars or do you mean strategies?
Probably. I mean, the big points here. So pillars, implementation, strategies, any of those, changing those sorts of things would likely.
I'm sorry, I can't let that one go, because implementations have a specific meaning, strategies have a specific meaning, and pillars have a specific meaning. in this document. And that's really where my source of concern and angst really lies. So I would expect what we just talked about to present as changes to the implementation actions and potentially the strategies, but certainly not the pillars and goals for the city. To me, that seems like structural. And
And
maybe
again,
that's for staff, I'm not sure. I just want to know what I'm approving as like the actual plan and the guidebook. Like, I'm having a hard time separating the two.
so the comprehensive plan is the entirety of the document. So it includes everything that you're talking about. And my point is that, you know, there are more difficult things to change. You know, there are some things that are more minor that affect less area. Those things can be changed, like parking, for instance. Things like pillars, strategies, those are not going to be simple to change by a future action of commission and council.
Can I take it one step further? I'm sorry. Okay, so if the city said, you know, we want to focus our efforts on Kirkham rather than Summit Avenue, that's a strategy. Would that be something that would be viewed as amenable to the periodic changes, or is that too high? Like, when do we hit the level where it's more than just a normal plan that we're updating? I guess that's what I'm struggling with. And maybe I'm sorry. I don't mean to be getting too far in the weeds. I just want to kind of understand how we use this.
I mean, there's not a separate process or a separate bar of votes or
It's just what we're
supermajority
comfortable with.
for the pillar, the strategy, the implement, right? Peter, I think you're saying that the inertia to change something like that would be
Okay,
more.
got it. You have the ability to change anything you want in the comp plan. It would be unlikely that you would do it to an overarching goal. Got it.
And yeah, when there's I guess, for instance, the strategies have more of an effect on the entire comprehensive plan, and they can affect more than just one specific idea, right? So it's just making sure that the entire thing would be modified so that it matches what you're trying to do, which can just be a more involved process and be more difficult.
Okay, I understand. I'm good.
All right. I will entertain a motion. And I don't know which motion.
You made the motion. So you have to make a decision.
I will make a motion to approve the comprehensive plan as presented by the Lakota Group, most latest.
All right. It's moved and seconded. We'll just go straight to a voice vote. We're done discussing. Annie? Grace? Yeah. Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes, but I will make my comments to the city council.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
I will vote yes, with minor reservations, but all right, Grace?
Yes, with the comment that I would like to improve upon. I would like to request we look at the process for how we filter things through all of the approving bodies into the future to ensure we don't miss any steps.
Also went through hard time with planning.
Yes.
So there was no continuity for the whole time.
All right, I'm going to come back to that. All right, so motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Josh.
There is
You're excellent.
There is no other business on the agenda. The next regular meeting is August 4th, 2025. Is there going to be anything? Does it look like it? Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Well, before we leave, you'd requested something, so let's leave with an action and an assignee. So could you restate your request, and you think that's something for staff?
Yes, a request to staff to consider formalizing the process for more complex long-term plan revisions and feedback loops, adjudications. Honestly, this fits in very well with the process part of the comp plan. So I think it's already in your bucket. Thank you.
Elliot, what would be a reasonable time to get something back to us in that regard, just as some thoughts? Next meeting? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
Hold on.
Yep.
No, go ahead. Was that Josh? Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec, Josh.
It may not be at the point where it's like, oh, you can vote on it.
Yeah.
but Definitely something
You can,
for discussion.
Yeah. Yep, go ahead, please.
Yeah, also a comment on process and a request. Since you guys are going to, my understanding is, pass your comments to council. Council will also have comments. I think one of the kind of instruction steps we missed in this process is that those comments should really be consolidated and agreed upon before they're sent to us, so that we're not the ones making decisions about which to include and which not to include. So just as we go to these final comments, to request that they come to us in a format that we incorporate the exact things that everyone has agreed need to be attended to.
So Josh, may I?
Please.
Just so I'm clear, you're saying that all the comments that are floating in from tonight and from the past come to the Coda group?
I think to staff with guidance from the Plan Commission and from council as appropriate. I mean, I don't want to direct your process, but I want to make sure that anything that we incorporate is actually that there's consensus by the groups involved.
Josh, are you saying that instead of receiving our comments directly, you would have liked to have received already adjudicated comments just to go and incorporate? Essentially, with caveats, stars, asterisks.
I know we can't go backward. That would have been the ideal.
Okay.
Well, we've got another round of comments coming with council, so I think that's good feedback to have, that we'll provide those to staff. Staff will compile them, but I think we'll need to come back to council to decide what actually is going to move forward. I think that should be a council decision once they are all compiled. And then when they get to Lakota group, they've been, vetted by staff, vetted by council, and you've got what we'd really like to see. And of course, you can still say, push back and say this, it's too late in the game, or, we're not for this reason, but you would have a more comprehensive list of comments, I guess.
Thanks.
For lack of a better word, our comments would go to Elliot. Elliot would pass them on to council, or do you want us to directly send our comments to council?
I think they ought to come to me, and we'll consolidate them in one format, not edit your comments in any way, but just make it so that it's all one look, so that it's easier for the council to read.
Now, that's fine, but my offer stands too. If you want to send something to me, I will include it with my own comments. Just
Okay.
It's one thing to get comments, but I would like to discuss.
I-
I would like a discussion.
Yes.
Not just.
Understood.
I received them, thank you very
Yeah.
much. And move on. Part of my vote was, I really want to make my comments known and I want them satisfied.
Understood?
And that's something that, as a commission, we should have done a few weeks ago. Or a few months ago, really, you know, yeah, work session. To where we could all know what everybody's thinking and then come up with.
Yeah, why did you make this one? A little bit. Yeah.
That's the really important part. You can give feedback until you're blue in the face, but it only matters at that point in time where it's useful. And so that's the part that is not on Lakota Group. That's on us as a whole city that we have to do better. It's a lesson learned.
All right, we have moved and seconded, so I will vote now for adjournment.
Second.
Aye.
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 All right,
Thank you.
we are adjourned. Thank you, Josh.